Alright, this week I thought we'd have a look at how organisations like the World Economic Forum measure progress and how that affects us and how we assess meaning within life. Whilst discussing this stuff, I'm also going to be chopping some firewood and digging a pathway across here. And neither of those two things necessarily add up or make much sense on paper. So why am I doing it?
Our land is steep, so it takes a lot of energy to get this wood to the bus. From an economic standpoint, the whole thing is inefficient. I can almost imagine the World Economic Forum looking at what I'm doing and saying, "This makes no sense." If I worked a few extra hours at a well-paying job, I could buy gas or electric heating and save myself the trouble. That's what the spreadsheet would say, but the spreadsheet is missing something. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts.
This tree is Carnica. It's amazingly useful. It doesn't really have much oil, and so it burns really easily. And the other cool thing about it is this stuff at the top, as you can imagine, starts fires incredibly easily.
There's no column for the satisfaction gained from swinging the axe. No cell that accounts for the feeling I get looking over our property knowing that there is enough wood in there to keep us warm, probably for the rest of our lives. There's no formula to measure what it means to know that, whatever happens, you can keep your family warm. In the modern world, we've been taught to value things we can quantify. Our governments chase GDP growth. Our lives are measured in salaries, net worth, and the house that we live in. And I get it. GDP gives you a clean number. It tells a story, or at least part of one. Politicians can stand up and say the economy grew by 2.5% last quarter. And that is success, apparently. It's a bit like someone says, he's doing very well for himself. What they mean is, he makes a lot of money. But are they really doing well? Mentally, physically? Are they fulfilled, happy, living with purpose? These things are harder to measure. I know so-called rich people who are dragged down by enormous mortgages and living in total poverty. A poverty of time, not money. They are usually searching for something. Maybe a dream of the future. Indian philosopher Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Maybe chopping wood isn't just an inefficient way to heat your home. Perhaps it is a way of stepping outside the logic of the spreadsheet and the models and stepping back into something older, something more human.
This morning I thought I'd do a bit of work on the garden. So over the past sort of 2 or 3 years, I've been planting quite a lot of fruit trees. So behind me you can see peaches, plums, nectarines. All the citrus fruit is just starting to come out now because it's winter, but I'm kind of running out of space over there. The land you can see behind me is pretty steep, and the problem is it means that it's not very usable. So what I want to do is kind of cut in a terrace, like a pathway along the slope, and then either side of that pathway I can plant fruit trees.
The World Economic Forum and institutions like it are obsessed with optimisation. How to make systems more efficient, how to grow economies, how to manage populations and resources at scale. But what they often miss is what it feels like to be one of the people inside that system. People don't live inside pie charts. We are not averages. We're individuals with stories, struggles, dreams. I've found that since living off-grid, I feel something I didn't before. A connection to the land, to the rhythms of the seasons. It sounds a bit hippie-ish, I know, but I don't know how else to articulate it. Sometimes I'll be sitting on my surfboard in the ocean, the sun setting behind me, the moon rising over the hills, and in that moment I feel like a human being sitting on the earth, looking out into the solar system.
That was actually pretty easy. So we've now got a bit of a ledge that I can kind of walk across, and I probably just need to widen it a little bit further out just so I can get the wheelbarrow down it, but I think that's going to work.
It's a feeling that's very hard to describe because you could argue that in London I could do the same thing, look up, see the moon, have the same thought. The point is, I didn't. There's a quote from astronaut Edgar Mitchell. You develop an instant global consciousness, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. It works. Those first words, you develop an instant global consciousness. He was talking about the overview effect, how seeing Earth from space changes you. You realise how small we are, how fragile, but also how connected.
Privet.
When I look back at the land from the water, I feel something I've never felt in the city. I feel where the expression Mother Earth comes from. If I were to drift 20 miles offshore, I wouldn't feel too good. We don't belong there. We tend to treat nature as a resource, something to extract from, to manage, to commodify.
Path's going really well. That tree that you can see there is right in the way, but I don't want to cut it down because it's nice. So I'm going to have to sort of go around it. But as soon as you go around, you lose a lot of height. So I'm going to try and dump loads of soil on the top of that pathway bit and even it out.
For me, when I stand in my garden harvesting some food or cutting down some firewood or picking fruit from the trees, it's pretty hard to be stressed. There's a quote from Thomas Merton. Modern man is conditioned to be constantly busy. He doesn't know what to do with himself when he is alone. For the most part, this is true. However, for me, there's an exception. When we are alone in nature, it's a different story. We feel at home, connected. Maybe this is because we have evolved to live this way. Speaking in evolutionary terms, cities are brand new. A report might say we're doing better than ever, higher GDP, lower unemployment, but that same report won't tell you if people feel lonely or anxious or disconnected. It won't measure whether we're proud of how we spend our days. Maybe success isn't something we can measure. Maybe it's something that we feel. There's a satisfaction when we come in from a day working outside in the garden or splitting wood or building a chicken coop or whatever we've been doing. We all know that feeling. That is success.
Reading through the comments makes me realise I'm not the only one having these thoughts, and so it's very comforting to read. So if you've got something to say, chuck it down in the comments. I'd love to read it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.